Good morning, everyone. My name is Lorenza. I'm the Managing Director of the European Industrial Hemp Association. I will spend a couple of words about what EIHA is doing and who we are and who we do represent. So basically, EIHA has been founded nearly 20 years ago in Cologne, and since 1 year we opened a new office in Brussels because we understood that the presence in Brussels is much more needed today as the novel food regulation and all the other regulation, namely CAP reform, which is the Common Agricultural Policy, or even the Thc Foods limits, is still in Brussels. So that's why we decided to move the office to Brussels last year. Is the only pan-European consortium in the industrial hemp sector. We cover both pillars. We defend the farmers from one side, and from the other side we defend as well the processing companies in Europe. We cover more than 26 member states, over 28 or 27. And more, we have 12 extra EU countries that are represented within EIHA. We represent both the farmers and the hemp processors, and they are equally balanced, not only in the number of membership we have, but as well in the board members, because EIHA, of course, has its board members, and we try to keep the same share between farmers and processing company within the board member too. So basically today, EIHA count nearly 300 members. They are divided between associate members and regular members. We have 8 partner associations coming from extra EU countries that allowed us to keep an eye on what is going on around Europe. Again, we cover 26 member states plus 12 extra EU member states, and in total within EIHA we represent more than 70% of the entire industrial hemp association. Hello. EIHA is composed by a board member, as I said, 7 people coming, half of them from the farmer side and half of them from the processing side. And then we can count always on our advisory committee, which is composed mostly by technicians that helps me to figure it out, the key topics to bring forward to the European Union institution. So just a few words about how Brussels works. So in Brussels, we do have 3 mainly European Union institutions. The first one is the European Commission. Everything starts from the European Commission. The European Commission drafts the laws. So if you are a good and proactive lobbying, you always need to deal with the European Commission, because if you deal with the European Commission, the law is not ready yet, so you can modify it. So that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to do proactive lobbying. I can bring you some example later about, for instance, cosmetics. So we actually are applying and proactive lobbying in cosmetics ingredients. So we need to deal with the European Commission first, because Commission decide and push forward the problem. So basically, Commission looks around Europe, they found there is a problem or a lack of regulation, and they will launch a regulator process. So is the first target for our lobbying action is the European Commission. And then if we are not so good, we need to catch up with the other 2 institutions, because it always works in the same way. The European Commission draft the law, and then the European Commission send the law at the same moment to the Parliament and to the Council. So within the Parliament, we have MEPs, members of the European Parliament. We have nearly 800 members of the European Parliament, divided over 28 member states. And basically, the scope of the European Parliament is to vote and to amend the law that has been written from the European Commission. Once we have the consolidated opinion of the European Parliament, doesn't matter in which regulation, the text is sent to Council. Council means simply member state. So when we are lobbying at the council level in Brussels through the permanent representation office that any member state has in Brussels, we are lobbying at national level too. So that's a crucial part, because I can be active in Brussels toward the representation of national countries, but what I need more is to have active members that act towards their national institution. So when I'm trying to copy-paste the message and I gave it to my members, and then the members download the position and go to talk to the national authority, because the idea is to spread the message all around Europe. So this is how it works in Brussels, and we are trying to lobbying at wherever the legislative text is. Today, EIHA is covering different EU policies, not only CBD, which is only one for us. One of the policies probably is the one that now is requiring much more our attention, because there is a regulation process going on. But otherwise, we are very active in the CAP reform, which stands for Common Agricultural Policy. For instance, the CAP reform is a huge dossier which is open every 7 years in Europe, and now is the right moment to push forward our amendments, to tablet the amendments, to change the law. So we have one big aim in Europe within EIHA in the CAP reform, which is to increase the level of THC up to 0.3%. So what we have been doing, we wrote few amendments. I tablet the amendment within the European Parliament. I tablet within the Committee of Agriculture, and they voted on this amendment on the 2nd of April, and they accepted to increase the level up to 0.3%. We want the 0.3% because we want to compete with the same strain all over the world, namely with Canada and US. We want the 0.3% because today we can plant only 69 varieties in Europe. If we increase up to 0.3%, we will have more than 500 varieties. And the variety we are interested are the ones that are over 0.2% because they are stronger fibers and longer fibers. So that's why we want to have the 0.3. The last reason why we want to increase the level from 0.2 back to 0.3 is because we will have new genes that could be bred for our plants, because one of the best aspects of cultivating hemp is that we don't need pesticide and fertilizer. If we keep breeding the same varieties that we have been breeding for 45, 50 years, we will end in 10 years that we will need pesticide and fertilizer because the plants are getting weaker. So we need new genes to be bred in order to keep our strength much more stronger without the necessity to use fertilizer or pesticides. So basically what we are doing in the CAP reform is not only increasing the level of THC in the seeds, but as well we are pushing forward new amendments for having, for instance, standards for hemp, because standards are missing in the hemp world, and as you said, there is a real keen of quality and standards, so we need to have standards, but we cannot write standard if there is no regulation that allowed hemp farmers or hemp association to write standards. So first of all, we need to change the law. We need to allow hemp producers to write their own standards. So that's why I tablet a new amendment in the forthcoming month to ask for standards. And then I thought it could be a good idea as well to have an appellation for hemp, because I've been working in the wine industry for 3 years, and I know very well how it works, the appellation of origin for wines, for instance, Bordeaux. It's a way for hemp producers to sell their fibers or their product coming from hemp at a higher level because it came from this appellation which is linked to the terroir. So I've been asking to have appellation in the hemp sector too. Second big point is novel food. I will have a focus later on the novel food regulation. But basically we have a clear vision in EIHA, which is if we do respect the natural share of the natural cannabinoid present in the plant, we respect the same share in the final product, we believe it's not novel, it's traditional food. On the contrary, if we take the natural share, we enrich the natural share, for instance, through isolating process, and we obtain a higher share of CBD, in that case, we believe it's novel food. So because it's novel, we need a pre-market authorization, and we will go through the novel food application. But I will have a focus later on CBD. Third policy we are following within EIHA is COSING, which stands for cosmetics ingredient. I don't know if you know, but recently the COSING catalog has changed at the European level. So since last March, any hemp producer, any food business operator could put in their cream both natural hemp extract and isolated hemp extract. Since the last April, the European Commission changed and they decided only isolated isolated CBD can be put into cosmetics ingredients. We do not agree. So that's why 2 days ago actually, we prepare and we consolidate a cosmetic position where we ask the Commission not only to rephrase the wording of CBD, which again is today they said that only synthetic CBD can be used. We don't want, we want to use both natural and cosmetics. So we propose a new rephrasing for the COSING catalog when it comes to the entries CBD, and we propose 3 new entries because as far as we know, the change was dictated by an alignment exercise with the United Nations Single Convention. So if we do the alignment exercise properly, that means that we can use leaves. Because if we read the United Nations Single Convention, we cannot touch the flower, okay, but leaves are fine. So what we believe in EIHA is that first of all, we can use both synthetic CBD and natural extract. And second point, we want a brand new entry for leaves because leaves are authorized under United Nations Single Convention because to Article 28 is written, leaves were not accompanied by the fruitops. So leaves are okay for cosmetics ingredients. So we want the leaves back. Fourth policy that we are currently following is the THC limits. Today in Europe, there are no limits for THC residues as contaminants in food. There is only one country who has the guidelines, which is Germany. Germany, through the BVL authority, which is the safety consumers authority, they establish old and outdated guidelines with very, very low level of THC. In food. So all the other countries that do not have their own guidelines are looking at the German one. So what we are proposing within EIHA is a much more European and coordinated approach, and we want to have EU guidelines. So that's why back in July we have been to EFSA in Parma, and we proposed them to increase the level proposed by Germany because they are too low for us as contaminants. We want to increase the level. It's very technical, but basically we want a little bit more of THC residues in food. And then we want that these guidelines will be adopted for all EU member states. It was quite a positive outcomes from the meeting because EFSA seems to be willing to increase finally the level of THC as contaminant in food, which is huge for the industry that they represent because I have many processing companies that are processing food. And the problem when it comes to food is the residues of THC. And that's why sometimes we got the RASF alert and our products are taken out of the market. Another problem is as well feed, which is the same about THC limits. Again, there is no guidelines for THC level in feed. That's why member states sent to us a letter, a request 1 month ago, and they ask member states, they ask EIHA to set up maximum level of THC in feed because they do not exist. So we will provide the THC limits for the feed too before the end of the year. We negotiate with member state, the deadline will be before the end of the year. So till the end of the year, if any one of you is producing food, you can you can still produce your feed as you are doing for now. Doesn't matter if it contains CBD because there is no novel food category in feed. So it doesn't matter if you do have CBD in your feed. Textiles, we are active as well in textiles. We are currently ongoing under 2 EU projects, and we will set up a workshop at the end of January. We will meet around the table with the European Union institution, with some big player in the textile industry. Basically, we invited IKEA, we invited Levi's, we invited Marzotto Group from Italy, and Linificio from Italy. These four big players in the textile, I want them to dig into hemp textiles. So in order to do that, we need to sit around the table. And at the same occasion, I invite the European Commission and other stakeholders to sit around the table to see how we can increase the share of hemp coming from textiles, because there is a request. So why we moved to Brussels? Basically, we moved to Brussels because we need to meet on a regular basis with officials coming from Commission and member states. We meet with EFSA because EFSA has a representative office in Brussels too. We meet with MEPs, which are the member of the European Parliament, and the permanent representation, because any member state has a permanent representation in Brussels. And we meet with other stakeholders, and we keep the relationship with press. We do all that to create a stable and coherent regulatory framework for the hemp sector. So that's the reason why EIHA decided to invest and to create a brand new office in Brussels, just to keep the relationship with European institutions that at the end of the day, they decide for us. And they cannot decide on their own because they are making mistakes. So we are there to provide them with sound and reliable information in order to change the laws. Let's come to hemp extract. So as you know, hemp extract is a tricky period from them, simply because there is no regulation coming to hemp extract. There is only what is called Novel Food Catalog. Novel Food Catalog is a non-legally binding document. However, due to the lack of guidelines in Europe, all member states are looking very interesting toward the Novel Food Catalog. The Novel Food Catalog has changed 3 times over the last 20 years. So how can an industry be strong and build a sound in industrial sector when all the legislation changed 3 times in 10 years? Is simply not possible. So we want guarantee that the current framework is stable and will last longer. So we got the first version that was valid from 1988 till 2 years ago. There were only 1 entry linked to cannabis sativa L. There were no entries for CBD because at that moment they didn't recognize it as an urgence to be put. And so basically they said that the novel food regulation is not linked to hemp products. That was valid till 2017, and then between 2017 and 2018 they add a new entries entirely dedicated to hemp extract. We, as the industry, we were happy with the second entry, which said basically if we do respect the same share of cannabinoid, that's not novel. So according to EIHA, that what we want is to bring back to the second version, because we are not happy with the third version that was changed back in January, on the 20th of January this year. They rephrased both CBD entry and cannabis sativa L entry. So as a result, today, extract, leaves, and flowers are novel. The only one who is exempted is seeds, are seeds. So this is the EIHA position. This is what we believe. We believe the leaves and flowers are traditional food. We believe that hemp extract are traditional food, so we do not need pre-market authorization. However, we say that if we do respect the natural share of cannabinoid, that's traditional food. If we increase the level of cannabinoid, that's novel food. When we say novel food, it means pre-market authorization, which is very costly and it's very long in terms of time because it could last up to 2 years. So we believe as well that isolated cannabinoids are novel food, simply because we need to prove that we will be able to isolate before the 15th of May 1997, which was not the case because we were not able to isolate before. So that's why we believe that we cannot have all the cake. We need to share, and we need to be honest and to say that we were not able to isolate before 1997, therefore that's novel. At the same time, we believe that genetic modified plants are novel too. So this brings us to our position, which is the line that you see is the naturally occurred level of cannabinoids. So if I stay below the line, I believe that is traditional food, and in order to secure that, we are invoking Article 4 of the regulation in order to achieve and to try to find a compromise with member states, which will be the level of cannabinoid that they want to consider traditional. So if we succeed, it means that you can freely send on your market hemp-derived product containing, let's say, below 5% of CBD as food, so you don't need pre-market authorization. On the contrary, as I said before, we believe that if we enrich the level of cannabinoid, at that moment, we need a pre-market authorization. So in order to help our members, we, within EIHA, we create a novel food consortium, and this consortium will go through the novel food application. We did that simply because it's too expensive for a single company to do the novel food application, because it can cost up to 3 million euro, and that we believe it's a bit too much for the small medium enterprise that we do represent. And second point, because we have a lot of knowledge within EIHA. As I said before, we do have the advisory committee that are experts with a huge background of knowledge. So we believe that we can take advantage of their knowledge to put together all our effort and to do the novel food application. So we don't know yet which specificity we will go to the novel food application. We will decide that in November during our general meeting with our members that are even here today. So that's all. I left a little bit of space because I wanted you to ask me question about Brussels, how it works. So if you have specific question on the CBD market or on the CBD regulation, I will willing to reply to you as much as I can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lorenza. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you.
Hello.
Do you know when the 0.3% THC is likely to be agreed for Europe?
So you asked the 3%?
Yes, 0.3.
So what we are doing is to invoke Article 4 of the regulation, where it said if a food business operator has a doubt if his product is novel or not, he can ask the national authority. So that's what we are doing. The problem is that we can invoke Article 4 once. We cannot invoke Article 4 28 times around Europe. So first of all, we need to find the right horse. We believe we find the right national members that could follow us. Once we invoke Article 4, the member state has 4 months to reply back to EIHA. Is it novel or not? We will invoke Article 4 in 2 weeks, the time to collect all the documents, and then we have 4 months. During these 4 months, you can still sell your product.
Okay, now with regards to food.
Yes.
Now CBD oil is considered a dietary supplement. Does that come under food category?
It depends. What we are seeing now is member states have not an harmonized approach when it comes to CBD. Because if you take Belgium, for instance, on the 8th of July this year, Belgium adopted the novel food regulation, but they did their own interpretation. So today in Brussels, you can smoke cannabis light CBD flower, but you are not entitled to take CBD oils. That's crazy, but I cannot argue. That's up to Belgium. And then you have Italy, that we got, for instance, a propaganda message about the limit of 0.4, but it was like politics. At the end of the day, nothing changed. And then you have the northern country that are very much more into medicine, and they want to consider not only THC as a medicine, but even, so it's not an harmonized approach that we have now, so I cannot tell you in which country is it considered food supplement or it's not. What we are trying to do is to try to harmonize, because operators are driving crazy because they need to find the right labels in any single member state, and we cannot have a flourishing industry with this context, basically. So I don't know, sorry.
Anyone else? Any questions? Yes, Robert.
Hello. Oh, sorry.
Hello.
Hi, Lorenza.
Hello.
You mentioned about the naturally occurring level of CBD,
Yes.
but you also mentioned about traditional extraction methods.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if EIHA has a view on what counts as a traditional extraction method.
Yes. When it comes to CBD and to natural level of cannabinoid, we do not only need have to focus on the level of cannabinoid. We need to do a matrix which takes into account in which way have been extracting these cannabinoids. So we believe that according to article, I cannot remember, I believe it's article 2 of regulation of food supplement, there are 4 methods that we consider traditional, which are cold extraction, CO2 extraction, fat extraction, and cold pressing. We believe that if we respect the level, plus we respect the way of extraction, that's traditional food.
Ethanol.
Ethanol extraction, alcohol, you're right. We believe that these are the 4 methods that are traditional.
Anyone else? Yep.
Hello. It's working. When is your predictions when the CBD will be regulated?
So the low percentage of CBD can be regulated in 4 months. Because like I explained to you, we will invoke Article 4 in one member state, and the member state has 4 months to get back to me, is it novel or not? In the meantime, I will do some lobbying to make sure that he said it's traditional food. So it can be regulated in 4 months. On the contrary, if we are talking about enriching level of cannabinoid, that depends on the novel food application. And the novel food application takes 2 years. What I will do for my members during these 2 years is try to negotiate with Commission the transitional period. So I went to Commission actually 2 days ago, and I said, we have a full picture now. We believe that if we respect the level, it's traditional food, we will do the novel food application. We are very good boys in the class, we are doing our homework very well, please give me back the transitional period. So at least I secure my members to keep selling their product for these 2 years, because otherwise it's simply not sustainable. So traditional food can go fast if they listen to us, below 5%, 4 months. Novel food application, longer, because EFSA is very complicated when you need to deal with EFSA. So you need to have back and forward, many questions they ask, they need more details. So it will take 2 years, the novel food application. But if we have the transitional period, which few countries already informally inform EIHA that they could be able to give a transitional period, namely Netherlands, we could live with that.
I'm here.
Thank you, Lorenza. 0.3% THC in Common Agricultural Policy. What's your prediction or expectation when it can happen?
So we got the first vote back on the 2nd of April of this year. The Committee of Parliament dealing with agricultural issues agree with us that we need to increase. So we got the first vote ever about 0.3. So now it's written somewhere in the legislation. However, due to the fact that the vote was held only in the Committee of Agricultural, now we need to consolidate. You see, the Parliament vote and amend. So we need to have a consolidated position of the European Parliament. Now, we got the election back in May this year. So things are not in place yet. I cannot say to you when there will be the plenary vote, because something is the Committee of Agriculture that say, okay guys, let's go with 0.3%. Now we need to concretize this vote through the whole Parliament. 800 people needs to vote. So we need to go to Strasbourg. So when we go to Strasbourg, it's not set down yet because there is no calendar, because we got the election. Let's imagine that we got the final decision of the Parliament December, January. Then the text goes straight to the Council. So we need to do the same job that we have been doing in the Parliament within the Council. So if we succeed, both institutions agree with us that we go to the 0.3%, we could plant 0.3 on the 1st of January 2021. But again, the calendar won't be respected because of elections.
Anyone else? I have a question, Lorenza. On a basic level, I think, and this slide is quite appropriate for my question. Do you think post-Brexit there will be some conflict of interest in terms of, you talked earlier about Germany having a standard and you want to maybe enhance this in terms of its bandwidth. Do you think after October this year, the UK specifically will further be adhering to any EU law that's passed in the next 4 months, as you said, with coming back from Article 4?
I cannot give you a proper reply on that because I'm not the expert in UK issues. So what I can imagine is that if you leave Europe, it could be much more easy for you because you don't need to deal with other 27 member states. So probably could go faster, but again, I'm not an expert, so I mean, CTA or other associations are much more keen in the UK and which are the prediction of a Brexit when it comes to hemp sector.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Thank you so much. That was really excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.